Good.
Any additions or corrections, any additions or corrections to the agenda this morning, this afternoon, tonight?
Just
Mr. Davis. Any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I think. Sent a few after they had been submit, but they
Yeah.
were.
We can pull them up. I won't have them on here. Because they're not online. No.
I'm working on opening them, my computer's being a little slow.
Should we give it a minute? Get there.
Yeah, give it a minute.
So I have them open, it might be easiest. Do you want to share them?
Yes, I think we do want to share them, because if there are corrections that Arian wants to make,
I meant on the screen. so
Yes.
People can see them.
yes, please.
Recording in progress.
So I sent a request. To be able to share.
And someone needs to get the mic. Here.
Did that work?
There it is.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So if whoever is controlling the Zoom booths, videos,
Great. How do I do that?
you should be able to.
Just drag it.
Oh, but you can see it now.
It's all right.
Okay, so the first one, in the highlights, this is the section where Arian recommended we say, a new site schematic drawing will be created to show an updated layout to match a revised wetland delineation.
So have you put in that change?
No, this was after it was submitted.
Okay.
to,
So
I was late. It was my fault.
I'm just trying to figure out what we need to do right now. Do we need to edit this and approve it?
If the edits seem acceptable, I think the dominant feature that's changing everything in that is the wetland delineation, so that's why I wrote that. I suggested that in the summary.
Okay, I'm not sure I heard all that, but
So this, can you see this side over here, or is that too small?
that's a little too small for me to see.
So he would like the notes to say that the new schematic will match a revised wetland delineation. I had written, it would show an updated layout where the hill remains accessible.
You could say and we keep the other one. I just think the wetland delineation is important to note because it is a significant driver.
Does that work for folks?
Is there, yeah, any objection to this change? So let's change it and then,
Some more, I think. Okay. So this one is the same thing about the wetland delineation, all good for folks.
Yes.
Um. So this one, can folks see, we are replacing, a vague description of where we want to plan for wetland improvements with, more specific lots C listed instead.
Makes sense.
in that case, Is there any objection to unanimous consent to
Well,
accept the
We're
minutes?
still going on, Donnie. We're still showing more.
So this one,
It was site control is an official application requirement, and it said it was not an official application requirement, so just clarifying.
good with folks?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, did you have? Oh, okay.
And the last one's just adding specifically that the conversation was about the state revolving loan fund, which sounds like an ambiguous title, but it specifically has to do with water and wastewater, so in state joking has a specific meaning.
Okay. This one is saying that,
That the hearing is scheduled for September 22nd, and because of the date wasn't given, so it puts the specific date in there.
It's also at 5:30. I don't know if we want to put that in.
I think it's too late at this point, but
Okay.
yeah, we had discussed it on the date, the time had not been set at that time.
I see.
this is the same thing,
Yeah.
this is the same thing. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thank you,
good?
Kirsty.
Yeah,
Always a good job with the minutes. Therefore, is there any objection to unanimous consent to accept the minutes? There are generally no public comments, but I'll ask for them afterwards so we can get to you and Liz. Liz, welcome. Very nice to meet you, even if it is virtually. And I'll call for,
Thank you. Great.
so Karen,
Yeah, thank you. Karen Hatcher, here to provide an update on the CDBG-DR grant process. When last we spoke, we talked about what could be included in the grant. Since that time, we have had a meeting on our pre-application with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and learned a number of things that were of import to this group. Primarily that, well, infrastructure for sure is definitely something we can apply for. Project management is also something we can apply for. The two things that they told us were that the acquisition of the land, were it to be applied for under this grant, would not allow us to sell the lots for profit, or use those funds in any way that creatively we could, as a town, use them. Revolving loan fund could not happen. All of that would be qualified as what they call program income. And in this particular grant, that is not allowed. So there's no mechanism for tracking it and for keeping track of all of that. So so the guidance we got from them was acquire the land another way, and then you have full capacity to decide what you do with those funds when you sell the lots. Then you can figure out whatever that is, and it won't impact the grant or the reporting. So I asked Liz to join first because I wanted you to meet her. She's amazing, and we're so very lucky to have her working with us. And also because I thought you might have more technical questions about the grant itself and what all the yeses and nos are. And she's like, she knows all that. And I just feel like, you know, I know what I know, but she knows a lot more. And so I just thought it'd be great to have her for a few minutes to just allow you some time to interact with her and ask her any questions you might have. So also, just one thing before I forget, part of the application asks for bios of the grant committee, but also we thought that having bios, a brief bio of the committee members of this advisory group would be very powerful as part of our grant application. So I'm asking if you would all prepare a paragraph, doesn't have to be anything lengthy, but just your background and what it is you bring to this particular committee. I think you all bring something very different and really important. So I think it represents our town really well to show.
Should we email that to you?
Yes,
Karen?
please. Your committee chairs have my email address, so if you want to just get them to any of them, they can forward to me.
And is there a deadline for that?
As soon as possible and no later than September 10th. How's that? Great. Liz, you wanna hop in and say?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for having me at your meeting. You all look like you're having a lot of fun, which is in Burlington, not the case anymore when we have public meetings. So it's nice to be in a virtual room with people who are smiling and laughing and not facing our big city problems. So I'm Liz Curry, and I've been doing community development for about 30 years, mostly for most of that time in the affordable housing space, and then have worked a lot with federal and state grants in public transit, energy efficiency, community development, water and wastewater. I've been consulting since it's been 5 years now, and I have predominantly worked with cooperative mobile home parks, helping them redevelop their water, wastewater, and electrical, a lot of engineering, a lot of infrastructure, and then also worked with homeless shelter and affordable housing projects, and then with revitalizing general stores like the East Calais General Store. I'm working on Stratford now and helping other municipal historic redevelopment projects. John Broderick is a colleague. I understand he's working with some of you on Vermont Trust. Is that what's called? Village Trust Initiative. So anyway, it's just nice to be a part of a community of community development consultants that can support really exciting projects like yours. And the East Village project is really impressive. Your group is really impressive. I think you have a really strong proposal. The community development staff are very good to work with, and they're very helpful in terms of really being clear about what is going to be a strong aspect of your proposal and what either isn't allowed or won't play so well. So as Karen indicated, we got the message that the idea of using community development money to buy the land and then sell lots is not really an eligible expense for disaster recovery. So we immediately kind of pivoted and came up with a plan B, which Arian or Karen can explain. And then the other news we got is that it is a part of the state has to submit a plan to HUD saying what the goals are for the grant. And that's true. All the federal money in the state that comes to any state agency requires a plan telling the feds what the state's going to do with it. So for the disaster recovery plan, they stated that 70% of the homes, not the lots, but the homes would be for people, households with low and moderate incomes. And while applicants are not required to stick to that 70%, it will certainly strengthen your application if you do. And so that was the other parameter that was a very clear message. And your group was already well on its way to doing that. The only difference is, I think that, while there were a total of 15 homes, not lots, slated for Habitat and Downstreet, it means coming up with 12 more homes to meet that goal, which would be 28 altogether out of 40, assuming you only have 40 units, and you might have more. So
Oops. Probably draw.
been working with the grants committee on.
Oh, we lost you there for a second, Liz.
Oh,
the last-
sorry.
Can you say the last maybe one or two sentences again, please?
Yeah, so we just want to come up with a workable design to make sure that the town can deliver 28 homes for low and moderate income folks. And a lot of times people don't know what that means, but while you all are talking, I will pull up the income schedule, the HUD income schedule they put out every year, which indicates what the maximum income is someone could earn and qualify as a low mod income. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'll do it.
Great. Yeah, I think we do have that. Walker has that table and I think it's been shown before in these meetings.
Okay, is the HUD table that Down Street uses?
It's
it?
from like VFHA, it's their table, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want those numbers?
I think it's just so that, my understanding is that just that it's something that we're all cognizant of, and that it is based on household size, so it's not like it's just one number.
It's a whole string.
It's a whole string of numbers. Yeah. There were a couple of things that, did we want to get into some of the other
Do you want to
details?
talk about the options for the acquisition, or do you want, like, what do you want to get to?
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe that seems like that makes the most sense. Do you want to start it, or?
Sure, yeah, so since the funding for the acquisition of land cannot be part of the grant, then that caused the group to pivot, and Erin, you made an outreach
I
to.
reached out to Lawrence Miller at the Vermont Community Foundation, who has been very supportive of the project. Initially got the Community Foundation to loan us, or to give us $35,000 last year, and then to also make the loan for $150,000. Originally, folks will recall early conversations where the Community Foundation was potentially interested in loaning us a larger sum of money to help move the project forward. And so if it were simply the land acquisition cost, which according to the 3 purchase options that were discussed at the select board meeting the other night, it totals about 585. Is that the right number? So, let's just say with closing costs and other things, approximately $600,000. And he said, yes, that definitely is something that's very interesting, and he would put it on their committee, the next committee meeting in September, which means that they may even be able to give us a letter to that effect, which would be a conditional approval should the funds be awarded and have a whole host of other conditions. So that's, in terms of needing to pivot quickly, they were very responsive, very encouraging, and they also, for them, because this is just a land acquisition that would again be conditional based on getting this grant, which would pay for the infrastructure. The risk perception from them, it's remarkably low. And then the revenue side.
And then we talked about, well, what would that mean for how we could be creative with the lots? And I think it just gives us a lot of flexibility because from the select board side, and I won't put words in their mouth, but they want to make sure that there's money that the town can use for other purposes, because we all know that, we've got a lot of projects going on in town, and we're going to need matching funds, and we're going to need other dollars. So how can that money be used for the benefit of the town? So we looked at just some rough numbers, and this is back of the envelope, but we just very quickly were able to say, well, if you had to do 28 units that were affordable, and right, and you took a minimum number, even if you, and this is not what we were suggesting, but if you said, even if you didn't charge for those lots, and you sold the other half of the lots, the other remaining 12,
Yep.
and you sold those for $100,000, that's 1.2 million. You pay the loan back at $600,000, you still have $600,000 to do something, right? So that's interesting, but that's not the only way you could do that, right? So what we're hoping the committee can do is come up with some creative, options for what could that look like? What could the lots sell for? We also talked about, well, what if there were a way that folks who qualified for the 70% LMI could receive a grant that would help offset the costs of the land? Because we have renters who want to build. Maybe they don't have a down payment. So could part of the money be used in that way from the lot sales? But it gives, by not having it be part of the grant, we have a lot of flexibility to come up with some interesting scenarios for how things could be sold and then granted or reused. So, but it opens it up to this group to be able to, what Liz told us, we didn't have to nail down the prices of the lots for this grant application. We just have to have a general, right, Liz? I'm seeing you nod, but it's just that we need to be able to, and because if we have a source and we have a letter for how we can acquire the land, that satisfies the grant to be able to show we have a way to pay for that, and put infrastructure into the property. So, did I miss anything about
But
that?
the other
Liz?
thing I would just make folks aware of is that just in terms of thinking about the timeline of this, I would encourage everyone to stay away from digging into pricing of any sort, because what's going to happen is the grant decision will be made by the end of this year. You will ideally have a grant agreement by January, February, and be able to go out to bid in the spring. That's a hopeful, optimistic scenario that you get the whole grant, everything goes well, you can go out to bid next spring and get construction done in 2026. That's the ideal. By that time, construction inflation will have happened. The grant has all kinds of yucky compliance stuff, and it drives up your construction costs more than if you did this without public money. But then your lot purchases wouldn't happen until January 2026, or you'd be selling over the course of 2026. But arriving at lot purchase prices is going to be a bit of a challenging mathematical exercise, because in order to guarantee that you're delivering 28 homes at low mod income prices, that's going to require more information than you're going to have until you know you get the grant. When you know you get the grant, then you can start looking at, will we allow manufactured homes that are zero energy for $110,000? Those are essentially redesigned mobile homes. Efficiency Vermont has designed a really amazing model that is high energy efficiency and can have solar panels on the roof, but it's a mobile home and has, been placed all around the state already in many different places. So if people are comfortable with that $110,000 buy-in gets someone a home, but it might not get them a driveway and the pad that it has to sit on. So all those costs go up and up. And by the time they go get their financing, can they afford to pay anything for the lot? Like, you're not going to know those things for quite a while. And then the other thing is, like, you have lots of different sizes. So you all may want to consider different prices for different size lots. So there's just like a lot of program design issues that are too premature to figure out now until you get the money. So I just encourage people, it's tempting to go there, but it's also risky, because if you get attached to numbers and you don't get the grant, then the whole project requires a whole different kind of financing structure that's doable. It just is really different and will have different economic impacts on the whole overall project. So I just wanted to frame that. Also, you have until the end of 2030 to make sure all the homes are built.
I have a question of you two. I'm not sure I heard it correctly, so I wanted to get clarity. Did you say you cannot use the land, cannot include the land price in this, or did you say you cannot do it and then recoup value, such as a revolving loan fund for the community? Which of those two is it?
It's both.
You cannot do it?
Go ahead. I'll let you.
The land will be acquired without public money, so you can create a revolving loan fund.
Understood that, but what about the opposite? If it is, can it be acquired using the CDBG-DR grant? Is it not allowed or not allowed?
You're allowed to use it, but then you would not be able to sell the lots for any dollar. You couldn't even sell them for a dollar.
You can sell them for $1.
It's granted and done.
Understood. So that would be just as a thought on thinking about this. Why wouldn't we include the cost of the lot within the grant? Because it's going to increase the value of the grant, and then move forward with creative solutions as we move forward in time. What would be the reason not to do that?
Because the town would not get any money and recoup any money.
But I get that, but why wouldn't we include it now in the grant, which will increase the value and potentially leave our options more open if we wanted to use the CDBG-DR for acquiring the land, if that was our only option?
Well, actually, if you use the grant for the whole thing, then you'd weaken your proposal because you'd be representing that you're gonna give away land to people who are above low mod income. And if you were doing that, that would probably reduce your competitiveness.
I don't understand that, but go ahead, please, one more, take me one step further.
So because you can't sell the lots. Once you use the grant to buy the land, you can't sell the land.
Can't we
At
sell
all.
the lots to people as part of this and return the money to the grant?
Nope, nope, you can't do that. They don't want any
Program.
money back. They don't, that's
That's
not,
federal-
that's what they told.
Understood, thank you, Liz, there's got it, I've gotten there.
But special
Thank you.
federal rules that
Yeah.
prohibit that
Programming.
on just this specific grant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I think just like a comment, just thinking out loud, we're in a situation where there is some amount of time pressure, right? People, I'm sure people here want to, get out of the home that they're in and get into a new home. And I want to be able to give them information on pricing, and what I'm hearing from you is don't give them information, tell them it will be 2027 before you can start building. Make your decisions as if this isn't a factor. Right, that just confirming that's what I'm hearing.
I mean, I think one of the responses that I would say is that if we write it into the grant as it's kind of like we write it in blood of like what we have to do. And so I think there's probably a middle ground where we can, in some of our communications to people who are looking at this, put a range. But we don't want to write that into the grant because then we are locked in.
Got it.
And we, we want to be good faith on that range, but we also need to acknowledge that if something changes down the line, we'll have to tell people that like, hey, this was the range we thought, but this thing changed. But if we do that with the grant, like, doesn't matter.
We can make estimate, but not official estimate.
Yes.
And we wouldn't put them in the grant.
Okay.
Does that?
Yeah, and the other thing we were talking about today is that it would be great if you guys came up with a marketing plan. And in your marketing plan, you can give all kinds of examples of like, if your income is this, under current mortgage rates, or a mortgage like this, you'd be able to afford this much of a home land package. That's what you'd be able to afford. And you could do that for all kinds of price ranges. You could do that for homes at 110, 175, 250, 350, and help people understand that depending on where you fall, your town is essentially saying 28 households will get affordable housing, and this is what affordable looks like.
And it's a little bit later on the agenda, but I think it sort of naturally flows from this particular topic and informs us. If we could talk a little bit about a lot sales plan. And last time that we met, I said, hey, we need more data about what we might actually be able to do in terms of people that we want to support buying housing in this area as a town. We talked initially, there was a vision of this project of housing people who've been displaced by flooding, whether they were owners or renters, and housing people who are from our community or immediately around here. So while we are probably going to need to seek some specific legal advice, and Liz made I put out a great idea of asking VLCT to weigh in on this, and we may need some additional legal advice. There's probably something we have to make the lots open and accessible to all. That's going to be required by fair housing laws. And so if somebody comes along and buys them, it has to be an equal process to anybody on sort of a first come, first served basis. However, if we have this income that comes in, I would say in addition to that, if we have this income that comes in, and we as a town wanted to develop a home buyer grant program with some of that income, and we as a town want to have certain criteria that we can, and the specifics on that criteria is where we need the legal advice. So because it's probably one thing where it's like, you know, it's like, here is okay, right next to it is not okay, and those lines are very specific that we need help with that. But we could, and Rick sort of alluded to this last time, and maybe there was something that we couldn't say, the price is different, but we could say, well, if you are successful in our Plainfield new home buyers program, part of your price could be covered by this program. And I think, you know, obviously that's something that's going to need to be a select board decision, but I think it's something that we as a committee with legal advice can develop a specific recommendation that would be consistent with some of the original ideas and intentions of this group.
I just got a little confused by what you said, Aaron, because I've heard two things. 70% of the lots we sell need to go to low-income people. And what you just said was, we need to sell, what I heard anyway, was we need to sell the lots to the first people who come up with the money. So what if all those people are not low income? Then have we not met the grant?
Well,
Or
so-
what am I not understanding?
We can't, I think one of the, Liz, correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the only criteria that we can set fairly as part of this project is that 70%, is the LMI threshold.
That's right.
But if it's somebody, so for example, Donnie, let's say we have a lot for sale for $30,000 up there. That's, it's a number that we've discussed. And somebody locally comes along and they say, yeah, I want to buy that lot. And they also apply to our grant program and they're successfully awarded. Maybe they get $15,000. Maybe they get the whole $30,000. So effectively they pay zero, but that $30,000 is bankable, you know, because that's now part of their down payment that would go towards their ultimately their mortgage. But if somebody comes along from Colorado and wants to buy that lot at the same time, and also meets those LMI criteria, we have to, if they came first, we would have to sell it to them.
So is there a scenario where we wind up with under 70%?
Not if
No,
we-
yeah, it's two different things. So fair housing means you can't select Plainfield only residents or Washington County only residents. It just means like income is a protected class. So no matter what, you're gonna sell certain number of lots to people who meet the low mod income threshold. And you're not going to be discriminating by doing that because you're actually taking an affirmative step to deliver fair housing by doing that. The difference is you can't say in your materials, Plainfield residents get priority, flood victims get priority, all that stuff. You can write your materials and then you can do your own outreach on the ground to create a market for the homes that are the folks you want to help. You could do that on the ground. It just can't be written down anywhere. I never said this. You are doing your own marketing. You are having these conversations in the community. That's a different.
There's also, I think, Liz, it's fair to say that it's like, if we're promoting this, we're not promoting it in Colorado. Like our marketing plan is like, we're telling people around here.
Right,
Else
but
has
people
find
move
out
to
about it,
Vermont all
like-
the time. People move to Vermont all the time. And if
Yeah.
someone shows up and wants a 1.5 acre lot for $100,000 and you've never met them before, you got to sell it to them if they're first. You know, they're not low mod income. They just want to buy a lot. That's what fair housing looks like. But if you get applications or get letters of interest, you know, or create a pipeline of folks who you will be working with as soon as you know if you get the grant, then what will happen is I would encourage everybody to then, you know, you get the grant, then dig into some real detailed numbers about what exactly will it cost to build the driveway, put the gravel pad in, put the slab in, put a foundation in, you know, how much will all that cost in real numbers? I have bids from Fectus with, you know, all kinds of manufactured homes. Karen's done research on a couple other modulars that Efficiency Vermont has worked with in Maine. There's Upend This in Johnson. There's all kinds of housing models. Downstreet does modular housing. So we can get, or you can get all those numbers. If I'm still working with you, I'll help you. All those numbers and do the math with realtors and say, like, here's what it would look like. And then you back into your lot sales price. And you can get there probably by the spring, or, you know, as soon as you know if it gets grant, that work would start. And so then you all would know, okay, we know whether we can sell the lots to low mod income people for anything, $10, $10,000, whatever. You'll know what the affordability analysis looks like by then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah.
All right.
I have another question.
Yeah,
So backtracking to the community foundation loan, what steps would need to happen for us to get there?
It's very likely that, it's very likely that sometime before the select board hearing, we will have a letter from them and it will be a conditional approval and it will stipulate the conditions.
So there's not any type of public input that would need to happen for that loan.
Well, there, ultimately, one of the criteria we'd need to get the grant. We'd need to move through the grant paperwork. We'd need to have it all approved by the select board, and we'd need the select board, would. The exact terms of that loan have not fully been determined. It probably would be something that would only need select board approval, but that is dependent on how the thing finally gets formatted.
So you're saying that's a select board decision?
There would be, depending on the circumstances, it could be something that is only has to be approved by the select board.
Which, I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. Which one were we talking about for the land itself?
Yeah, my worry is that if for some reason there does need to be public input on that, there would need to be clear communication to town folk leading up to that, so that they understand why we would want to take out that loan when we're also getting potentially a big chunk of money for this project, because I think it would be really easy for people to misunderstand.
I think the intention also is that, with the public hearing, the application will be available 5 days ahead. Liz will be at the public hearing, to present to the public, so we can make sure that folks have an opportunity to hear those that are interested and want to attend, you know, to make sure that people know to come and ask the questions, and find out about all of it, but it's, yeah, we're talking about it, we're talking about it, so people can know.
Might there be, I realize the amounts are different, not unlike the engineering loan, there was the offer from the Vermont Community Foundation, the letter. So we knew that was on the table, and eventually that was enacted, but in order to proceed with the grant, you need the letter. And the availability of that, but it's not pulling the trigger on doing that, and even receiving the grant isn't pulling the trigger on taking the loan, so there are a couple of
That makes
steps.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, just trying to take it a step at a time. What do we need right now to
Yeah.
be able to do the next thing? Yeah, and it is a mini step process, so. Yeah, but we do want to communicate all the way through to make sure everybody's comfortable.
Yeah, because I mean, I know we're not going to get everyone the information because people aren't always looking for it. But I do still see and hear people complaining that Plainfield took out a loan for $30,000 for something that. So I would just like to be proactive is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. And I think, you know, the more information that we're putting
Yeah.
out, and you guys are talking to people, so now you have the
Yeah.
information, right? And so
Yeah.
just try to make sure folks get their questions answered.
Yeah, we probably don't want to overwhelm people with information if it may become irrelevant
Right.
too. That way, when we
Yes.
say something, they know, like really loudly, they know to listen. Because it, you know, it could happen.
That makes sense.
And
okay, we
as I
ready to move on?
As well, just.
Go ahead, Rick.
One comment, as I understand it right now, we're all looking for ideas for how to accomplish this. This is the best one that's come along so far. Is that correct, Karen?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yes. All creative thinking is,
Okay.
but I think we're just making sure that, you know, we want to have the strongest application for this money, for the infrastructure money and the project management. And according to Liz, we're pretty well ahead of a lot of other places, so we just want to keep on that track and let's get there. Yes, all right. Very good,
Okay,
very good. Thank you.
I think we are ready to move on. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Liz.
Really appreciate it. I will ask for public comment now because I skipped over it. We had guests. Would anybody like to make a public comment? I thought as much. Rick, construction and permitting.
So since last time, I walked around with our NEPA expert, and we looked at the woods up along the top of the lot. At this point, they are talking to habitat experts about to see what our current status is. There was some concern about bat habitat. Not sure where that stands right now, but that's being looked at by a state regulator. Additionally, it was our discussion last time, I believe, that it would be wise to do engineering so that we could do stormwater and wetlands permitting. And I'm trying to organize a meeting whereby those two regulators get in a room at the same time and then walk away with the intent what's that? Duke it out. There is some of that. So I think that's part of the reason why I'd like them both to be there. And Laura has already offered to do that. And Kevin Burke is, I think, would be glad to work with us. The rub right now is that Paul is having a hard time threading us in. We're on a bit of a fast track. He already has a pretty good book of work. And so we're just getting in to see him, to get something drafted, to bring to these regulators is our current rub that we're having. And so if that doesn't work, I think I want to talk with you all about other possibilities. One might be to just go and talk with Laura LaPierre about doing wetland approval and get that sealed up independently, and maybe allow that our stormwater needs to move down the road. But I'm not sure. Maybe we can get them both in the same room, talk about something conceptually, and get them to bless a conceptual design. And so more discussion on that as we go along, but it has to be done fairly quickly. I think it really needs to be completed by our next meeting. So.
And just clarification, this is so that we can have some kind of letter that says it's a permittable, because we're obviously not filing the permit.
That's correct, Arian, and just so that just a letter that says this is a concept that's permittable. I don't know what weight that necessarily carries, but I suspect it would have some value because Laura LaPierre mentioned having done that before for projects prior to grant approval. I think we probably will need to continue on after the submission of the grant with some of this process. The additional part of it that I'm working on that I was going to use those documents for was to have our cost estimator, Peter Schmeckel, go back, take Paul Bovier at Engineering Ventures drawings and re-cost estimate them and update them to our current thinking. We talked about having more what I'm going to call site amenities, maybe site necessities like paving, underground electric and such added to the scope of the project for the purposes of the grant. What I've done is set up a meeting with Peter for next Thursday to do that with or without Paul's drawings. And so I'm just going to talk through that with him and we'll comb through that estimate. Anybody who wants to see if we're missing anything without a set of document that is complete. And so that's going to be the rub for us is we may not be basing the newest cost estimate on anything much more advanced than the sketch I've done so far, but a lot of the previous work has been done. And so this will be a modification to that cost estimate. And I think that's it for an update, but any questions?
You're in the quick note you sent to Lauren, Arian and I, you had some concerns about meeting a deadline for this. And you expressed worry about that. Can you say more about that? I didn't quite hear that in this.
The worry is that I'm not gonna get drafted plans in time to take a stormwater plan to Kevin Burke at the stormwater regulator desk and say, is this a permittable stormwater concept? I'm not sure we're gonna get there, given his current backlog in site drafting.
How does that affect the grant? I mean, can that something be settled after the grant decision?
I think the answer to that is yes. I think the more of those we have, the stronger our application is. So it's
Uh-huh.
not like necessarily that we're in or out either way. It's just if we have a few more of those things lined up, we just look that much
Okay.
better.
So if this dribbles, that was really my question for the group is, what would be our preference then, to submit something more complete later on? Maybe in October at some point, and submit it as an addenda. And our grant people have left the room at
Right.
this point, but I
It's
think we
worth
want to
asking
get
them.
clarity on that.
I mean, maybe it's probably worth mentioning that to Karen and Liz directly, but I do think, you know, as we sort of discussed previously, if we could get a letter from Laura. That, which seems achievable. We may not be able to get a letter from Kevin also, but you know, one is better than none.
And so probably, given what Arian has just said, if I follow that idea along, I should set up something with Laura at this point, before our next meeting then. Why don't I go ahead and do that and see if we can get somewhere with that?
I mean, the obvious answer is that we want the grant to be as powerful as possible so I mean, if we can get it beforehand or indicate that we're well on the way to these designs.
Isn't
And
this
I think
just
we
a
can
draft?
indicate that we're well on the way to a good stormwater solution too. That's my understanding, is that we are well on the way. Paul has to do some more development and fine tuning, but we're well on the way.
We have a question from Walker.
Isn't this just a draft CDBG DR application that we're doing right now?
It's a draft until it's not a draft, but they're probably gonna be, you know, it has to be submitted by September 30th. We'd probably like to be as close to the final version. Excuse me, by the time the select board meets.
Yep.
And has their public hearing on the 22nd.
Okay.
Of course, we could get some feedback from that hearing that suggests we make a few revisions prior to final submission. But I think in terms of getting letters and something like this, we do want to have that definitive letter in hand sooner rather than later.
Okay. Moving along. Budget and finance,
Done.
Arian.
Donnie, you have the Peter then.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Want to
Peter.
comment on, the public hearing is the 22nd. However, it needs to be warned in the paper 15 days ahead of time in the Times Argus with copies of what is the subject of the hearing available at the town clerk's office by that time. So it's not the 22nd, it's 15 days prior to that,
Yeah.
that this needs to be available to, so that they can come in and give comment.
My understanding is that by the time we have published that, we want to put the best draft we have in the town clerk's office, and that we may have some updates after that point in time.
Thank you.
I think Karen actually said it had to be there 5 days in advance, was mandatory, so. I mean,
Yeah,
earlier is better.
Earlier is better, yeah, yeah.
And Erin, you were working with Bram on the,
We gotta get we have to put the
warning.
notice together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get it, but yes,
which is 15 days before the 22nd.
which is the 7th,
7th.
so we got a week.
Okay, budget and finance.
We had two updates. One of them is on the land purchase options, that those were voted on at this, that would be for, both the lot that is on Main Street, that's owned by Pigeon Pond, that has across from the park and ride. And then all the parcels for Bram and Erica's lots. Those, I believe we talked about this last time, that those did make it through the Ethics Commission review, that purchase option, that was passed by the select board this past Monday, 3 days ago. So those are moving forward. which is great. Also very timely. We knew that we really needed all that to come together before we could get this grant application. It was a sort of a threshold thing. And because actually when we had the meeting with ACCD last week, one of the questions they asked very early on is, do you have a ethics decision and is the purchase option moving forward? And they wanted to see the copy of the ethics decision, which was just a simple email saying, we reviewed this and we think it's fine. But you know, so they are paying attention to these things is the take home point of that. So that's great. And then we already talked about the initial draft of lot sales plans. And so I think our next step is to try to get a little legal advice from VLCT. It may be that they say this is, you know, they may have some opinions that are great. They may also say we need to engage private counsel due to the nature of it, but we just don't know until we ask.
Well, it's really a relief for all this to be, for a good percentage of this to be behind us at this point. There was understandably on all ends a relative amount of anxiety, I think, around this. So I'm really, really happy that we're in the part. There is any more questions about this? Okay, Eli,
Yeah, update on the new homes fair.
great, great poster on Facebook today. I saw. That was really nice.
Thank you. I don't, and maybe it was good. Anyway, we've had a whole team of people working on our materials, our publicized materials. I think the main thing that I want to ask for today is volunteers to help out. Mostly what we need is help loading, unloading the exhibitors' cars, right? We've got around 26 to 30 exhibitors.
Wow.
So a lot, right? A lot of people. So, and
Jeez.
our unloading time is gonna be between like noon and 1, 11:30 and 1. So hoping for some folks to help out with that process. Right?
Is that just show up here at 11:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome, thanks, Arian. So that would be, and if you can, if you could help, acquire volunteers, that would be awesome. I can put out great calls on my social media or my friends, so unloading people from their cars into here. Me and Sandy will be running around in here, setting up tables, telling people where to go. And then when it's closing, 4:30 to 6, and the other thing will be parking, right? We can't fit 26 cars in that lot, but we can fit whatever, 14. So we can have folks park there, unload their stuff into the building, not get hit on that intersection, and then move their cars down the street to the garage, the red garage down the street.
Risley's. Yeah.
Risley's.
Paula Emery has reached out to them. And there was, also the Black Bear biodiesel parking lot, which I reached out to Jim Malloy. He hasn't answered me, so I need to give him another call.
So that's our plan, right? That's how we're handling the parking situation. And then hopefully people will show up. And if anything we can do to share those, the materials we provided on Facebook, or we've got them posted on all the front porch forums we're in contact with.
Is this something like the bridge or WCAX or VPR even might be into?
I sent in press releases to all of them on last Friday.
And Donnie sent calendar listings as well,
I
and
did.
I've been in touch with a bunch of different press people to try to get them to cover it, but we also need advance PR. So if any of you can share it on your social media and let your friends and neighbors know about it, that would be great. We've asked a bunch of people in different towns, including St. Johnsbury, Hardwick, Peacham, East Montpelier, you know, all over, to post information about the fair. Because with so many exhibitors coming, we want to make sure we have a decent crowd.
Yeah.
We're also sending a letter again to the prospective buyers. And we have, I think Paula is sort of in charge. She's got the traffic cone thing. gonna be doing, and we
Yeah.
have signage that Sandy's doing.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Eli, the main thing you need help with is load in and then I assume load out as well.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
I was hoping for volunteers also between.
So load out will be about 4:30.
4:30 and 6, yeah, that time range.
Okay.
Anybody's available then, or if you have friends who might be available then.
I don't have any friends.
There's also a tour of the tiny house on Hudson Avenue, and there's a tour of a yurt as well,
Yes,
as part of this
And,
whole.
and the parcel.
yes.
At
And-
at the park and ride.
Can
Yeah.
you remind me that time and I'll write it down?
It's 3 o'clock.
And then the tiny home was 4:30, I think.
Yeah, and it's at the park, meet at 3 o'clock at the park and ride and then walk up.
They're looking for the parade.
What time is the parade? Does anybody know?
I know, that's what I was asking.
I think it's at
I
11.
think it's earlier.
11 maybe.
Yeah.
So hopefully everything will be clear.
I was like, yeah, parade always goes before lunch and then the firemen do lunch.
What time, the parade's at 11?
All right.
I think it's 11 to noon.
It can't be an hour.
It's not that long.
It's gonna go around 20 times.
And then
Donnie's the grand marshal.
what time is the tour of the yurt?
Tour of the yurt is from noon to 2. And I've got the address. I think I'll put the address.
Is it like an open house?
Yeah.
Cause 2 hours to get around here, it seems a little generous, yes.
Then, a few people in the parade would be awesome. We've got leftover flyers, so just like walking around town, passing out flyers in the parade. If anybody was gonna be in the parade, anyway, if anybody wants to be in the parade and hand out flyers.
You know, is Carl gonna drive one of his classic cars around the block a few times, maybe, and hand out some flyers? There's usually a select board presence in the parade. But I don't, do you know if any,
Carl hasn't offered. Last year, there was select, board, he had Carl as select board members.
He's got like a,
Select board's bigger. I don't know if the whole.
it's a pretty big car. It's
he's
like
got like a 65 Buick or something, right? Yeah,
Big old class.
yeah.
Yeah, the boat, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's another volunteer we're looking for. And then are you gonna table for us that day?
We'll have a EVEAC
Great.
presence,
Awesome.
gather materials that we can.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Okay, that's my story. So
Okay, it's a good one.
I've made my asks, and I will also be reaching out to my constituents to try and fill those volunteer spots.
Question.
Yeah, please.
I've looked at the stuff online about the fair and whatnot, and I was looking specifically to see if Jamaica Cottage Shop was one of your vendors. I had spoken to Sandy about them. We've had really good luck with them and very affordable, very energy efficient stuff. Kits or fully delivered, you can.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you still have room or.
Well-
But they're out of Londonderry.
They were on the initial list that we reached out to.
So I'm sure that we reached out to them. I don't know.
Yeah, not everybody could free up staff to come.
Right.
So I think they might have been on Sandy's list. I know I did not call them, but I know they were on the very beginning list.
I was at the co-op this morning and one of their sheds assembled. Drove by and then they're like, oh, I wonder about that.
Yeah, so what we decided is that Sandy is preparing a extensive brochure with listings of a lot of different providers, everybody who's gonna be here and other people who weren't able to come. And she's also collected some information from them. So if they're not physically here, they may still have the opportunity to distribute.
My second question is, in terms of the public relations, and now you said like, oh, yes, you talked to, Hardwick and Danville and whatnot. What about the other towns that had flood damage where people are looking to do stuff? Not just, these are projects that people could look for sources to build here on our expansion. But, Barry City, for example, there's people who are looking.
Yeah.
That people from elsewhere and other towns who have projects could come here. And that would, I think, make this a bigger event than just us.
Yeah.
I think that was in the publicity, Peter,
Yes.
Eli says in what he wrote and in the press release, that, yes, we're organizing around the expansion project, but we're inviting anybody who wants to build a home to come and use all these resources. It's in the PR.
But we
And-
haven't specifically promoted, I mean, it depended pretty much on who we knew in other towns that could post for us.
But yes.
We've got Barry posting for
We've got
sure.
Front porch forum on Barry and I have a contact in Waterbury. Joe, who was part of like the town reaction to the flooding and developing a town response. To post on Front porch forum, so that is a really good point, and that's exactly, yeah. We're thinking.
We could use somebody in Lindenville, if anybody knows anybody in Lindenville, I don't, but right now, I had someone post in St. Johnsbury.
I wonder if there are very specific contact lists for, it would all be anonymous, but there's a point person for FEMA buyouts in these places of people who have
Oh, that's
acquired. It seems
Oh,
like
that-
they are,
But-
prime target.
That's interesting. I wonder if Vermont Emergency Management would feel comfortable circulating that a little bit,
Hmm.
because all the FEMA buyout people have to coordinate everything with them.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that's public knowledge. I don't know.
I don't know if they would promote anything, just.
But you
because-
might get the list by asking.
Well, I mean,
Or if they might give us the contact person who
Yeah.
can then share it, but so we don't have all the names of the people.
Under-
Yeah,
I think
so they
that's
got it
the-
out.
I can ask, there's a couple, do you want to send me the latest one, Eli, and I'll ask about, I'll ask the folks at Vermont Emergency Management. There's two people that I've been working with quite a bit there.
That would be really targeted.
Yeah, that would be getting information in the right hands of the right people.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, communications.
Well, so we just talked about, the public relations around the new homes fair and, one thing we didn't mention is that I think Arian and I are gonna be on Kevin Ellis's show on WDEV the day before the home fair.
Is it Thursday or Friday? I thought it was
It's
I thought
Friday. No, it's Friday.
Oh, yeah,
from
sorry.
10 to 11.
I do have it in my calendar. It's Friday.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's Friday.
My brain
um,
was wrong.
And you're gonna go in person and I'm
Yes.
I'm on the phone.
You're on the phone.
Yeah, and, the bridge has been following all this and was gonna do a story around Labor Day, so have to get back in touch with them. I've talked to Eric Blaisdell at the Times Argus. He recommended a photographer to come. So anyway, just continuing to do outreach on that. I'm still waiting to hear from Frank Carlson, who's a producer for Judy Woodruff at PBS. And, he is trying to figure out a schedule. He was planning to come on, Old Home Day to cover everything, the flood and, what's going on here. But, he wasn't sure. He emailed me about a week ago or so. And then there was a front page story on the Times, in the Times Argus on, I think it was Wednesday.
That would be
That was yesterday, yeah. Just about the purchase and sale agreement being finalized, et cetera, et cetera.
There's a new web page on the big website that's just press coverage where all of that stuff is compiled if you want to get all that in a quick place. And if you see something missing, please let me know.
And it's been also helpful to Liz Curry, the grant writer, who has asked us to send all of this coverage to her, which I've given her as much as I could. And she said that that's really good for the grant, so. I think that's it.
Okay, I think we're there, folks. We're gonna finish early tonight.
Great.
Any other public comments? How about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Accepted. Let's go.
I think they left us instructions saying we could leave the chairs and tables up,
No, I'm fine now, but it was like.
but they said to put the owl away.